Hi, welcome to lesson 21 about mortgages. Most people know about mortgages because we talk about houses and the mortgage crisis and all that fun stuff. But a mortgage is basically a long-term loan where a bank or lending institution, they technically buy the house, and then the purchaser, so like me, if I was buying a house, the bank buys it, and then I pay the bank monthly installments in order to take over the title of that loan, right? But as long as you owe money on it, technically the bank owns your house, not you. Isn't that depressing? A little bit. But anyway, we're going to spend this lesson talking about mortgages and the lovely interest rates that go along with them. So we start on page 189. And our friend Roger is who we're going to talk about. So Roger found a home for $115,000. He's agreed to pay 20% down. So how do you figure out your down payment? Well, if you think about it, this is 20% of the cost of the house, which is $115,900. And remember, of means multiply. So I will take 0.2 times $115,900 to get Roger's down payment of $23,180. And if that's his down payment, then he doesn't need to borrow that money. That's what he's paying towards the house initially. So to find how much Roger needs to borrow, we take the cost of the house, take away the down payment, because that's how much Roger has already paid, and we found out that Roger needs to borrow $92,720 from the bank. So this would be the mortgage amount. Okay, and if you look at the bottom of page 189, it says, okay, Roger found a lender that is going to charge 3.75% over the next 20 years. So we're going to turn to page 190, and here it talks about using Excel to determine the mortgage payments. We could do it by hand, but it is horrible. So in using this, we say, okay, for Roger's mortgage, what is the monthly interest rate? Well, they told us that his annual rate was 3.75%. So that's going to make his monthly, just like with credit cards. We take the annual and divide it by 12 because there are 12 months in a year. So that would actually be the first part of the formula that you punch into Excel. And how many total payments, this is number 4, how many total payments will Roger make? Well, there are 12 months in a year, and there are 20 years on his loan. So he will make a total of 240 payments, which is another part of this. Yeah, oh, look at that little zero. Oh my gosh, that's wrong. Oh, I made a mistake. Okay, so when you enter into Excel, you type in PMT, that stands for payment. We want to figure out his monthly payment. So if you want a payment, we want to find out his payment amount, we use the PMT function. So 0.0375 divided by 12, right? That's the monthly interest rate first. Then 12 months in a year times 20 years in the loan. And then this last number is negative because that's how much Roger is going in debt. So it wants to be negative. Well, maybe it doesn't want to be, but it is. So when you type that into Excel, you end up with a mortgage payment of $549.73 per month. So that is what Roger's going to be paying for this house. So still on page 190, number 5. How much would Roger pay each year? Well, actually, why don't you guys hit pause and try to do these questions and then come back. You'd probably be able to do them by yourself. But try that first before you watch the explanations. So here in number 5, how much does Roger pay in mortgage payments each year? Well, if he pays $549.73 each month, and there are 12 months in a year, well, we just multiply that by 12. So his total for 1 year is $6,596.76. Okay, so that's 1 year. Well, in number 6, we're talking about, okay, if that's for 1 year, how much is it over 20 years? So I take my $6,596.76 and I multiply by the 20 years of the mortgage, and I end up with $131,935.20. So this right here, this 131, that is going to be the total that he will pay back. Now, how much of that is interest? Well, if that's the total that he paid back, let's take away the amount that he borrowed, which was $92,720, Because the difference between that, the amount that he borrowed and the amount that he paid, the difference between that, that's the actual interest. So we know that Roger paid $39,215.20 in interest. That's a lot. I could buy a lot of shoes with that money, right? Going on to number 8, what is a ratio? The ratio of what Roger pays in interest to the total mortgage payment. So hopefully you remember ratios, right? They're fractions. We talked about that in Unit 1. First part, what Roger pays in interest. Well, that's the answer to number 7. So that was 39, 215, 20. 2 implies the fraction bar, which gives you the ratio, the total mortgage payment. Well, that's the answer to number 6, which is 131, 935, 20. Now, this, if you remember, is part to whole. And if we have a part to whole ratio, we can talk about this in terms of percents. So if you divide this fraction, you will get 0.297, which is approximately 29.7%. And that means that 29.7% of Roger's mortgage payments went to interest. So almost 30%, which I just think is really, really sad. Right? I feel like all my money, 30% is a lot to just be paying to interest. So that's a lot. And if you go to page 191 at the top, it does say that's a lot of interest. So what if, this should be an F, what if Roger borrowed $92,720 for 1 month with an annual interest rate of 3.75? How much interest would he owe that month? So now we want to think about like our credit card concept. We found our finance charge per month for credit cards. Well, for an interest on a mortgage, it's kind of the same thing. We know the annual interest rate is 0.0375, but we're talking about 1 month. So I have to divide that by 12 to get a monthly interest rate. And if I take that and multiply by my balance, my $92,720, I will get my interest for month 1, which is $289.75. Right? So that's just the interest for month number 1. Now in question 10, how much of Roger's payment in the first month actually goes towards reducing the balance? Well, if you remember, Roger is paying a house payment of $549.73. And if you take away the interest, the $289.75, that will tell you how much is going towards the principal. Because here in red, that's the interest. So if I take away the interest, the rest of it goes towards the principal. So when I subtract those two, I get $259.98. So the balance that Roger owes on his house really only reduces by $259.98 in that first month. So when I go to number 11, what will Roger's loan balance be to start month 2? Well, if he started with $92,720 and his balance reduced by $259.98, well, now he owes $92,460.02. So you can see after that first month, that $550 house payment didn't reduce by that much. So it does go down, but it goes down slowly. And number 12, when you think about this, will he owe as much in interest in the next month? Well, no, because his balance in the first month was $92,720. His balance in the next month is $92,460. If his balance goes down, the interest amount is going down. Now, it's not going to go down by much, but it's going to go down a little. And, that's what we want. We want it to go down. So that's good. All right, at the bottom of page 191, you see this chart. This table is a lot like what we did in the credit card. And I'm going to do the first line for you because we've already done that in the questions above, and then I'm going to have you fill out the rest of it. So your monthly interest, we found the monthly interest to be $289.75. And we know that the mortgage payment is $549.73. So the decreased mortgage balance, that's what we did in number 10, where we took the mortgage payment minus the interest, and that tells me how much I'm going to decrease my mortgage balance, and that was $259.98. So if we take our balance at the start of the month and subtract how much we're decreasing it, that will give us our new starting spot of $92,460.02. Okay, so I'd like you to complete this table just like you did with credit cards. You know, do your monthly interest, which is your APR divided by 12 times your balance, and go from there. So hit pause and try to finish this out, and then come back and check your answers. All right, so as you can see, the balance at the start of the month goes down slightly each month. The monthly interest goes down slightly each month, by about 80 cents or so. The mortgage payment is consistent. It's $549.73 every month, unless Roger would choose to, pay more. But for our sake, we're just considering a constant payment. And then you can see that it decreases a little bit more each month, right? It's that 80 cents that's coming from the interest, right? It just goes over to decreasing the balance. So if you have questions on how to complete that table, let me know, and I can send you a little bit more information. But I believe that is the end of video 1.